Hi there everyone, and welcome back to another Let's Play of Majora's Mask. This is Last Start here. So what we did last time is that we got all of the tools we need in order to get into the Snowhead Temple. So now we can just start heading straight over there. Uh-oh. There we go, got it. Okay, so I'm going to do something very interesting in this playthrough. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Is that, in the last part, I described a little bit about each of the Zelda games and saying that they're not really for everybody. I described that a little bit in the last part. So I want to do something a little bit different that we haven't done so far in this critique. Is that I want to stand by that. Is that it may be true. Oh shoot, I hate this thing. Okay, so alright, hold on. I'm gonna like change into a Goron here really quick, and then let's see. A right, left, A right, left, right, A. Okay, sweet. So I want to do something a little bit different. Is that I've been critiquing Majora's Mask the entire time, and because of that, it might have given off the message or something that I'm like trying to rub so much dirt or something like all over this game and just kind of giving it a bad name or something. But I said in the last part that each Zelda game kind of does their own things that kind of, it's not for some Zelda players just one way or another. So starting with this critique, starting with this part here really quick, is that I want to prove that. Is that what I want to do is go through each of the 3D Zelda games in turn and just kind of talk about each of their problems. Is that so what I'll be doing is I'll probably split this up into like 4 parts or something. I don't know how I'll do that, but I'll do it somehow. Or I'll talk about each Zelda game for as long as I can. So, oop, hold on. Boom, ooh, nice smack. So I'm going to do it from oldest to newest. So, alright, so I'm going to prove that Ocarina of Time may not be the Zelda game for some people. And I know some people are like, oh, no, don't talk about that game and everything, you know, but think about it. Like with what I was talking about in Majora's Mask, I was talking about that some Zelda games aren't meant for other people. And I've seen it in some Zelda lists, is that Ocarina of Time actually happens to be not a good game in some Zelda players' books or something. I've seen some in 8th place, I've seen some in 10th. I've even seen one where it even went down to 16th at the time. Like when it came to like Link, before Link Between Worlds, or I don't think he counted 4 swords, I think that was it. So anyways, what do I have? So I think I need to set this one up quite a bit. Is that, has anybody here like played GoldenEye before? From the Nintendo 64? I have. But here's the big problem that I'm going to see. Is that with GoldenEye, I know that that game is starting to get outdated by today's standards. But the reason I'm bringing it up is that there's a part of me, you know, like with GoldenEye or something, that won't allow myself to think that it's getting outdated or something. I played that game fondly. It's one of my more nostalgic games of the series or something. So it's hard for me to really sit down and find out what's outdated about it. But if other people are starting to say that it's outdated, then it must be true. It must be starting to get outdated as probably a fact or something. I mean, the game that like came out around like, what is it, 15, 16 years ago or something, like Ocarina of Time. So when I talk about Ocarina of Time, is I think this is kind of something where 75, 80, or 90% of the Zelda players won't really, just like with me with GoldenEye, is that maybe they won't let themselves to think that the game is starting to get outdated, but I think it is starting to get outdated in the sense that, well, it was made like 15 years ago, so if you compare that to the graphics of nowadays or something, it might have aged well or something, but it doesn't really change that the game was made like 15 years ago. So there might be some problems with the game that maybe some don't want to really see in it, because maybe they're just immune to it because they played it for so long or got adjusted to it, just like what I did with the GoldenEye. You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. So I've been like talking to some Zelda players that don't like Ocarina of Time, so I'll be speaking from their standpoint a little bit. Okay, so there was a little bit of lag there, so sorry about that. I had to skip over that there really quick. So this is what I've been talking about with other Zelda players that don't like Ocarina of Time. So I'll be forwarding this to you. So when I'll be critiquing Ocarina of Time here. The first one that I'll probably, the first complaint I've been hearing about with Ocarina of Time, how it hasn't been holding up to today, is its story. And let me explain about that a little bit. Is that it may be true, you might give out the argument that Ocarina of Time, it's fantastic when it comes to gameplay or something, but because it doesn't focus so much on the story, it gives off just minimal, like when it comes to the story, it's probably the greatest out of the series in terms of gameplay or something, but because it takes the least amount of time in a story compared to other Zelda games, there's also the argument out there is that it's probably the simplest story out of all of the Zelda games. Like, for example, like Link, he doesn't really give off too many emotions or something. Like, he just kind of flies his head back or something, and probably like gives off that gasping face or something. But otherwise, he doesn't really give off too many other emotions. So it's hard to relate to Link in that fashion. And also the other thing though is though too with Ocarina of Time stories that it doesn't really involve anybody like Link personally or something. Like, for example, with Wind Waker, it involves Link's sister. So when she gets kidnapped, you can kind of feel that connection to her, in that the story feels more important to you because it's Link's sister and things. And then Twilight Princess, there's the friends, there's the kids. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them. There's Midna, there's a few other characters or something. And with Skyward Sword, of course, there's Zelda. Oh crap, I forgot. Since I resetted the day, I might as well slow down time too while I'm at it. Okay, and with Skyward Sword is that you have a close attachment to Zelda when it comes to a Skyward Sword, and with Ocarina of Time, there isn't really a close attachment to anybody throughout that game. It's just simply drums it down to you got to save the world. And of course, there's the argument out there where people can say, like, oh, you can like get close to like Saria or Darunia or something, but you don't really know anything about them. You just kind of talk to them in passing or something, like both as kid Link and both as an adult Link. Like for example, the only time you really meet Saria is when you're getting the ocarina from her and she teaches you Saria's song. And the last time you meet her is when you do the medallion, but you don't really sit down and really talk to any of the characters or really get to know them. So you see what I'm saying is that Ocarina of Time, I think it's the weakest in terms of its story, but it's sacrificed with a lot of gameplay, so there's that argument there. So that's a very fair argument to make. But there is also the big con out there that it sacrifices in story because of it. So I just wanted to point that out. The second thing is that it doesn't look really too clean for 2015 standards. Like, going back to the GoldenEye thing again, is that it may look good to you because you probably played the game so much and you're probably like used to it and probably got yourself desensitized to it, but 20 frames per second is not good by 2015 standards for today. Oh, I don't have the key. Where do you get the key? Oh, that wasn't very smart of me. Let's see, am I supposed to... Oh, I haven't gone through this door yet. But yeah, that's one of the things, is that 20 frames per second and things, like... again, like when I was saying with GoldenEye, we might be used to it or something, but somebody from 2015 might have a trouble playing it. Is that the normal for today is 30 to 60 frames per second. So I'd probably say anybody who's like fresh to Zelda or something, don't recommend them Ocarina of Time. Just the game is, it's kind of a little bit out of place with its frames per second. And I know some people like praise the remake or something and saying the 3DS remake. Yes, recommend that to them. But here's something that also throws a weakness to Ocarina of Time's gameplay though as well. If you like the 3DS remake, and let me explain why. Is that, for example, some people say that with the 3DS remake is that it looks a lot more cleaner and that the graphics look better. But here's the thing though, is that if you're agreeing to that, then you're also saying that the Nintendo 64's graphics are also outdated in the process. Like, if they aren't outdated, then you would have probably said something along the lines of, oh, it doesn't need a remake. Then the game looks absolutely fantastic on its own. But if the 3DS remake is being praised for cleaning up the game and there's nothing wrong with that. It brings the game to a whole new clean slate or something, just like with Fire Red and Leaf Green. Then that's definitely wonderful. But the N64 graphics, when it comes to Ocarina of Time, it does mean that it is getting a little outdated by today's standards. So that's just a little thing that I wanted to bring up. Any other problems? Yes, I do see one more problem with Ocarina, or actually 2 problems with Ocarina of Time that I want to bring up. Let's see, the first one that I want to talk about is that it doesn't really have a strong theme going for it. And I know when you hear this or something, you're probably thinking, well, the story and everything is like great and things, you know, like what it was bringing. But remember that Ocarina of Time is an experimental game. Remember that it's trying things out for the first time, and it doesn't really have anything defined in 3D yet. So here's the thing I want to, well, just look at it. Like Majora's Mask, what is its theme? It's revolved around the masks, it's around the 3-day time limit. And Twilight Princess, same thing, is that it revolves around the wolf, it has a theme going for it, it has Dark World. Wind Waker, it has the sailing going for it, and a big thing of exploration going for that. And with Skyward Sword, it's a lot more personal. Like when it comes to like Zelda, and with some of the characters like Girahim and Zelda, and is that it made it a lot more, and the motion controls as well. But with Ocarina of Time by itself, though, it doesn't really have any of those things because it's an experimental game to start off with. So there is the chance that other Zelda players might praise other Zelda games other than Ocarina of Time just by that alone. You see what I'm saying? Oh shoot! Oh yeah, the bomb mask. Ha 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 ha! This is sweet. I was worried about that for a second, but don't have to worry about that. Sweet. I came through just again. But yeah, Ocarina of Time, it's a great thing on its own and things, but remember that because it's experimental and it was the first 3D game, it does lack the punch that other Zelda games have in terms of its theme. The last complaint I've heard about Ocarina of Time is the exploration. Now let me explain that quite a bit, because I know some will give off the argument that, oh, you can go between different temples, at which you couldn't do that with the other Zelda games. While that is true, let me explain that a little bit. Is that the exploration in that game is still limited. Let me give you an example. Like, for example, when you beat the Great Deku Tree and you can like go out into the big wide world, it may be true that a lot of areas are like open to you, but it looks like that is the case or something. But remember, you can't really go out too far into Zelda, just like with the Link to the Past, to really go out and explore too many things, because you have limited items and you have a limited amount of gear that limits your exploration. Like, for example, if you go out into the Gerudo desert or something as a kid or something, it's blocked off. I just got hit by a spike. For example, if you head towards the Zoras River, you can't go that way until you get the bombs. You can't head up to the Death Mountain until you talk to Zelda without getting the letter first. Do you see what I'm saying? Is that it may be true that some will say that Ocarina of Time still is an exploration kind of game, though, but it is an empty world until you unlock more of the gear, like later on or something. At which the other games don't really have that. Like, for example, with Majora's Mask, is that you can go in most of the directions or something, or it's kind of a little bit more. See, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little bit more non-linear in how you get your equipment and everything. So you can access more places if you want to. And then Wind Waker, you got the big, wide, open world in order to explore something, though. I don't know. But it is a complaint I've heard from Ocarina of Time haters, or I wouldn't really call them haters or something, but those that don't prefer Ocarina of Time, because the exploration is kind of limited in some areas more than others. And not entirely, but if it's enough that they said that it's not a favorable Zelda game compared to the others, then yeah. Then they could be having a point. I think that's everything that we can talk about with Ocarina of Time. Is that, and again, that's subject to opinion. There's subject to all sorts of stuff with what I was just talking about right there. And I'm not trying to blow it in your face or anything that Ocarina of Time is a bad game or something. I'm just simply saying why Ocarina of Time is on an even playing field, just like every other Zelda game. Let's see. I don't think it's this one. Let's see, I need the green, oh yeah, I need to get the green platform down so I can knock this down. Okay, the next game that we need to critique next is the Wind Waker, which is going to be the next one. Oh, hold on. I need to get the switch down. And again, just like Ocarina of Time with the Wind Waker, is that some Zelda players are going to get after me and saying, oh, it's perfect and everything, you know, you can't criticize Wind Waker or something. And the truth is, yes, I can. And the reason is because, remember, just like with every other video game we've been talking about with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, there's 90% of things that the game is doing right, but there's also that 10% that it's doing wrong. That doesn't make it a favorite. And I happen to be one of those people, and let me explain why. It's because it's true that its most strongest point when it comes to, it may be true that Wind Waker's strongest point is when it comes to the sailing or something, that is its strongest point, but that could be also a turnoff for some Zelda players. I was actually reading here in the comments section just a few, I think just like a day ago or something, somebody named Herbivore Waffle he was actually talking to me quite a bit, and why the Wind Waker didn't do it for him. And I kind of agree with him on this point or something when it comes to Wind Waker. Is that the sailing is pretty cool. It is one of the more natural looking dungeons in the game that looks absolutely beautiful and everything, you know. But my gripe with it is that I played a lot of RPGs when I was younger, like, and I sailed across like water like no tomorrow or something in RPGs or something. So that's kind of something that started to bother me when I started playing later video games. Like, for example, this isn't just the... Okay, so other games that I also don't like playing is the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and also the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. And the reason I don't really get into those games so much is because it looks so much the same from one place to the next. Like, with the Wind Waker and things, you know, you could give out the argument that it's like an ocean or something, but it's also an ocean the entire time. And that's kind of fun and things, you know, to look at. But if you're like sailing from point A to point B and things, you know, like all the time and things, you know, in the same ocean environment or something, it's kind of a, no offense or something, but it's kind of a turn off for me to really enjoy that game because of that. I'm not criticizing because it's a bad Zelda game or anything. Like, I'm talking, it has great dungeons, it has great music, it has great items, it has a great story and everything, but the sailing, you know, it's so hard to really get into that game where you just look at the ocean surface just looking like the same throughout the entire game, just moving from one place to the next. I got Wizrobe right here. He's gonna suck because he shows up about like 6 times throughout the game. And this is another thing. It's gonna be another hard one for Wind Waker. Fans to digest when I say this, but the graphics are not for everybody. They are not for everybody. I know that some people say that they are or something and saying, oh, it's supposed to look all bouncy and cutesy and cartoony and all that. And that's the thing that's supposed to be in all Zelda games or something, but that's not true at all. That is not true. Every Zelda has their own graphical art style for a reason that makes it pop out from the rest of the Zelda games. Is that just because one does it this certain way does not mean it's the definitive answer for how it should go with the Zelda game and everything. I gotta get rid of this Wizrobe, he's so annoying. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, there we go. So Wind Waker with this cartoony art style, I know Wind Waker players will defend that to the death or something, but it isn't for everybody, whether you think so or not. And me, I'm kind of middle ground with it. I kind of like it and I kind of don't. I like it more when it comes to the dungeons of the game, but I don't really like it in the overworld too much, but that's just my personal preference. I always like darker Zelda games. That's always been a preference of mine. That's why I like Majora's Mask a little bit better than the Wind Waker, is that while it may be, that's because it has a little bit more of a darker and serious tone or something to it. And yeah. And yeah, that's the thing with Wind Waker, is that the cartoony and bouncy art style, it isn't for everybody, and the sailing can turn some people off about it. So it really isn't for everybody. Okay, anything else I could probably talk about? Oh yeah, and the last complaint I can probably talk about with the Wind Waker though too, is that it has a lackluster of dungeons. It has, just like Majora's Mask and things, like I heard that 2 dungeons got cut or something before the release date or something because they were trying to make a deadline or something. I think Wind Waker would have been brought out a whole lot more if they brought out a couple more dungeons or something, but I think it was like 5 dungeons or something that it has, a total or something. Not counting the Forsaken Fortress or something, because that can be done in like 10 minutes or something, both at a mix of both times. But yeah, Wind Waker is not perfect, whether you think so or not. It is not a perfect game. It is not for some Zelda players, and for me, it happens to be one of my least favorites because it just involves so much ocean travel, and I just don't like that. Like, I played that in RPGs when I was younger. I played that, and those things like bored me to no end or something, and the same thing just like happens here. Alright, the next one, let's belittle my favorite game, which it happens to be Twilight Princess. Alright, so, oh shoot, I guess I gotta, let's see. Oh yeah, since I have the fire arrows, I can now start going down. I guess I might as well drop all the way down while I'm at it. Okay, so Twilight Princess has a big problem going for it. And you know what? I completely agree that this is a problem. Like, despite that I don't mind it, it is a problem in the Zelda universe, is the 2-hour starting time. That is a huge problem. The reason I don't mind it is because, for 2 reasons. Is that, you know, I play a lot of cinematic games. Like, I play Heavy Rain and I play the Metal Gear Solid series. So that's not too much of a problem to me. But I can see why it is a huge problem for somebody else. For those who don't like those cinema-heavy experiences. So in that way, Twilight Princess may not appeal to a Zelda player. And there's also another thing though too, is that when I was little, when I was playing like retro games or something, I kind of wish that some video games would have some cutscenes or some kind of stories or something behind it. And that's just a personal wish of mine, is that I wish that there was more cutscenes or something inside video games, so that way it has more of a story to bring out or something. Oh, yep, it's a Street Fairy. Nice. And these things are really annoying me. But yeah, Twilight Princess, when it comes to cinema-heavy things, it is not for a Zelda player out there. If you're looking for more of a story to go in with your gameplay or something, then Twilight Princess is for you. If you're just looking for strictly gameplay, then Twilight Princess is not for you. Pure and simple, probably. Let's see. Oh, I don't need to come into this room. That's right. It's because there's only a few Street Fairies. The second problem it has is this dark atmosphere. I know, I don't mind it or something when it comes to the dark atmosphere. When it comes to Twilight Princess or something, that's fine. It's a graphical art style I happen to like, which is fine. But it is not for some Zelda players out there. I know some have said that it's the lack of colors that kind of turns off the game or something about it. That is a problem. It is not for some Zelda players because of that. That's fine. It distinguishes itself with its own style. Some will like it, some will hate it. It will simply boil down to that. Let's see, I think, oh yeah, I need to get rid of the ice thing. I need to go in the green door next. So yeah, the next problem is that the while it may be true that it has a lot of dungeons, it's not very good with its items. I heard this one from Warren myself, and I personally agree with him. The Dominion Rod is that some of the weapons can be combined, like when it comes to arrows and bombs, and let's see, what's another weapon combination? Is that, oh yeah, there's the double claw shot, and some items are combined or something. I can't really think of one like right off the back of my head. That is its strong points when it comes to its items, but the items are not very practical in Twilight Princess. Like when it comes to the Dominion Rod and things, it's great for the dungeon, but it's not great. It's not used a whole lot outside of the dungeon. Same with the spinner, same with the ball and chain. There's a lot of weapons there where it's very situational, it's not very practical, and yeah, stuff like that. So in that way, if you're looking for great weapons things, look at Wind Waker, but not at Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess is not the game for you when it comes to weapon practicality. Let's see, any other problems? The story is kind of weird. I've also heard that complaint too from Twilight Princess, is that the story isn't for some. I heard it kind of weirds some people out at one point or another. But again, that's on preference. And you know, just like with Zant, just like wigging out or something at the end of Twilight Princess or something, some people say that's kind of a weirdo thing for him to do or something. And that's fine. The story is completely objective. Subjective from one person to another. And so, yeah, if you don't like things just like weirding you out or something, then Twilight Princess is not the game for you. And yeah, Twilight Princess does some really freaky things with its cutscenes. For me, I kind of like the mystery of it. That's the reason why it's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I like when things aren't very logical in video games. When it comes to both the story and the gameplay, that's why I personally like it. So yeah, I think those are the flaws of Twilight Princess that I can think about. Oh, at the moment and whatnot.